an architect based in London, originally coming from Hong Kong. Growing up, I was always fascinated by the mind-blowing visuals in movies and games. My 3D journey actually started back in my university days studying architecture, where we would use softwares like Rhino and AutoCAD to bring architectural designs to life. But after years of using these tools, I hit a bit of a creative wall with their rendering limitations. And that was when I actually discovered there's a whole new world of DCCs like Cinema 4D and Houdini and 3ds Max and Maya. It was like stepping into a completely different universe. The COVID lockdown in 2020 actually was my turning point. When I was stuck at home, I decided to challenge myself. I started diving deeper and testing many different 3D packages, as many as I could get my hands on. And I started creating and sharing my personal projects online. It was my way of expanding my skills, building a portfolio, and finding people that appreciate my creative style. Thank you so much. So I created this spooky Halloween-themed CG render as part of the challenge. It took me about 3 weeks bringing it to life. The whole project was a playground of creativity, mainly using Houdini, Character Creator, iClone, and Redshift. So when I started to work on the project, I wanted to break away from my usual fantastical style, so to speak, creating something that is more grounded and real. And when I was first looking for inspiration, I scrolled through Pinterest, and I stumbled across this very haunting vintage photos that send chills down my spine, like ghostly figures lurking in the background, or groups of people with blank, featureless faces staring straight into the camera. And those images sparked something in me. I wanted to capture the same unsettling vibe, something eerie that feels so convincing it could pass for an actual haunted photograph. The goal, apart from to match the theme of the challenge, but was also to create a render that would make people do a double take and wonder if what they're seeing is real. So actually, the post, I drew major inspiration from a manga series called The JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It is a manga series that is very famous for its insanely dramatic, hyper-realistic character poses. The way that I positioned these 3 characters was basically my own take on a classic JoJo pose. It was also a personal challenge to see if I could make multiple CG characters interact in a really dynamic way. So if you look closely at my final submission, there's this little narrative happening. The lady in the center is the only one without horns, and she's basically being lured and pulled towards her by the 2 witches flanking her. It's like a dark, twisted dance where she's being slowly drawn into something sinister. So, well, looking back 3 years ago, I think my work at that time was just all about architecture with a little bit of fantasy. And any animation beyond basic camera movements felt just way beyond my skill set. Nowadays, my creative world is much wider. I'm equally excited about storytelling, about character design, fashion, architecture, and animation. Learning Houdini over the past couple of years and actually using it in the past year was the turning point. It completely transformed my workflow, giving me the freedom to experiment and animate in ways that I never could in other softwares like Cinema 4D. As for my style, I think style is a very broad term and it is very subjective, but I recently have been playing around with Redshift Toon Shader as a pretty new feature that was added in the past month. And I've been experimenting with renderings that have a more hand-drawn and watercolor look for a future project. That's all I can say right now. I think that for me personally, for my skills, there's never really a lack of inspiration or or ideas. So the real challenge has always been my technical skills, or more specifically, my total lack of programming knowledge, which hold me back in many ways that I can iterate more efficiently. So lately, I've actually been focusing on learning programming, specifically Bex programming in Houdini. That is something that I have been avoiding for a while until I finally felt comfortable navigating around Houdini. But apart from that, a lot of people would recommend watching video tutorials, but actually in my case, I found that reading, just basically going through software documentations is a lot more useful than some people might think. So I've used Renderfarm a ton. I would say I use it in almost all of my personal projects for both rendering and simulations. The main challenge in almost all my personal projects lay in that the simulation and the rendering duration and iteration time. It's just takes a lot of time. So using Fox Renderfarm allows me to expedite the process a lot. For example, well, actually in a project which is one of the most challenging projects that I've ever worked on, called Henshin. It is a 30-second animation that I published earlier this year. It was a huge milestone for me, both technically and artistically. Within the project, there are so many pyro simulations that it's very hard for me to just do all those pyro simulations and develop and all the local development on my local workstation. Like every simulation would take a day, and then I'll have to leave my workstation alone and not being able to work on my project. So what I did is basically I would upload multiple files of my projects with varying simulation parameters to Fox Renderfarm, which essentially allowed me to free up my local workstation, and then I can work on a project while I was waiting for the simulation on farm, and then I can iterate more, and then ultimately just going further and getting better results. I would say I don't really think there's a universal advice, because people come from different backgrounds. Like, for example, I have a strong background in architecture, but if I could go back and give advice to my younger self just starting out rendering, I would say stop looking at other people's CG renders for inspiration or for reference. I think renders are always filtered versions of reality, especially photorealistic renders. And they are artistic interpretations, not the real thing. And if you think about it, when you're referencing someone else for the photorealistic render while creating your own work, is basically like taking a photocopy of a photocopy. So you lose all the incredible subtle details and nuances that make something feel authentic. And more importantly, you are totally missing the chance to develop your own unique artistic style and technique. Obviously, as your technical skills improve, then it doesn't matter as much. But starting out, I think taking references from real life, for example, just from photographs that you take by yourself, is more useful than referencing other people's work. I've changed my mindset compared to where I originally started. So when I first started to learning rendering, just in broadly speaking, and then I would look at this and look at these challenges, I always felt the pressure to rush for a particular deadline. But over the past 3 years, I've developed a habit of basically let's just say when you're starting out, just putting in like half an hour a day, and then just do half an hour, and then half an hour every morning, and just little by little, these 30 minutes every morning would add up towards a much broader, contribute to a much larger project. And so, same for participating in any challenges or just doing your own projects. It's just developing a habit of working bit by bit every day rather than just having a very ambitious goal of doing one large project in a week or a month. Just take your time, develop your habit to work on it daily, and everyone can get there.